Russia has money that it invested in Europe. And when the conflict in Ukraine started, the EU froze that money, claiming that they would not give the money back to Russia because of the conflict that started in Ukraine. Throughout these years in the conflict, they've been using the interest of that money to, in part, fund Ukraine. Lately, you've been hearing a lot about this conversation, right? Taking Russian asset and funding Ukraine. The reason is because Europe has no more money. They no longer have support for this conflict. They can no longer explain to their population why they need to continuously fund a lost conflict, basically a lost war. On top of that, the United States has made it very clear that they're no longer with Europe on that path. So the EU is alone. And in fact, there are major divisions within Europe itself. Their plan A in this meeting that they had on Thursday or Friday was to take Russian assets. They were like, they were making a whole lot of noise about it. Look, we will take the Russian assets, we will take their money, and we will fund Ukraine. Now, keep in mind, the United States is trying to stop the conflict, but they are trying to arm Ukraine so that Ukraine can continue fighting.
And this is the moment when we need to rearm Ukraine and put maximum pressure on Russia.
When they sat down on Friday, you had Prime Minister of Belgium, because that's where most of the money is, clearly saying, no, we're not going to take Russians' asset. You had, other countries coming in and saying, no, it's not going to happen. So you had a lot of countries, more than usual, not the majority, but a lot more countries that came up and said, no, we're not going to do that, right? And the Prime Minister of Belgium explained exactly why they're not going to do that.
We had to go to option B. Of course, some people did not like it because they would have preferred to have the reparation loan, because there's also a geopolitical motivation behind it. They want to punish Putin by taking his money. And I understand. And certainly countries close to Russia who live in an animosity with Russia found this emotionally satisfying, the idea of taking Putin's money. But politics is not about emotion. It's a rational job. And rationality has prevailed.
So when they failed to agree to take Russians' money, they went to Plan B. Plan B is to take a loan and give it to Ukraine. And of course, they came out acting as though it was a success because they passed the Plan B. And in this Plan B, 3 countries opt out because the Plan B is to take a loan, right, from Europe, give it to Ukraine. And they're claiming that Ukraine will not pay this loan back until Russia has paid reparation money. We know Russia's not going to pay, right? They know Russia's not going to pay, right? It is because it's a failure. They failed miserably. Russia basically won this part again, right? And that's why they're coming out as if this was a success. Just listen to how they're talking about it.
We have come to an end of this European Council, and I may say it's been a great success. Europe has understood the message. Europe has demonstrated its sovereignty.
Today, everybody can leave this meeting room victoriously.
And I'm very pleased to say we made it. We have secured an agreement that we can deliver on the financing needs for Ukraine for the next 2 years.
Today's task, as you have already heard, was to find stable financing for Ukraine for the next 2 years. And during the day, we found a solution, a loan worth 90 billion euro based on the EU budget.
So for them, they've succeeded. When in reality, everybody knows that Russia is not going to pay this money and that it is the Europeans who will pay that bill, because Ukraine will not be a country after this conflict ends. It has already collapsed. So there's no way that Ukraine can pay anything back. And Russia is not going to pay anything unless they have a puppet in Ukraine that will do whatever Russia wants. And then Russia can say, okay, we can rebuild to our benefits, to the benefit of the Russians. That's the only way Russia will participate in anything. Otherwise, Russia will not pay a dime. All of them know that for sure. The reason why the Prime Minister of Belgium or, other people are saying that they cannot take Russian assets to fund Ukraine is because it's against the law. You cannot take a country's assets to do whatever you want with it and then claim that you're doing it for the good of, everyone. because of your view about this conflict. Because you have to understand, Russia has its own explanation on what happened, and Europe has its explanation. So you have two different explanations here. But the EU wants you to only consider their explanation. Now, their explanation is that this conflict was provoked by Russia in 2022. The Russia invaded for no reason. Just like that. The Russia just got up and then decided, you know what, we will invade a country for no reason, and then we will take part of that country. That's the narrative of Europe. For them, this entire conflict started in 2022. Nothing happened before that. Everybody was at peace. That's how they want you to believe. That's the lie that they are feeding you. That everything was at peace, everybody was fine into their own house, and then Russia just got up and then said, oh, you know what, let's go and invade a country. Oh, Ukraine. Oh, yes, what are they doing? Nothing, but you know, we just feel like expanding, or let's expand. That's the narrative of the EU, right? And that's why they want you to support them in taking Russia's money. Now listen to the narrative of Russia. Russia is saying that in 2014, a coup d'etat by the West, specifically the United States, took place in Ukraine. The US, under Victoria Nuland, fomented a coup d'etat, removed an elected official. And then when the Donbass say, oh, you are removing an elected official, okay, we will part way with Ukraine. We will now have our own independent state. Ukraine began to bomb them. That is how the entire conflict started. And this is proven for 8 good years. Ukraine were killing citizens in the Donbass without anybody saying anything. The Europeans had their eyes completely closed. They acted as though nothing was happening for 8 years, because you're sitting down, people say, well, this conflict has been going for 4 years, and Putin has said that he was going to take the country. For 8, where were you in 8 years? For 8 years when the people of Donbass were dying, because most of the mainstream propaganda didn't talk about it, right? Because it didn't benefit them. That's why you think nothing was happening. 8 good years, people died. Russia kept watching people die. And in 2022, Russia said, you know what, is enough. And in 2022, they decided, since the world doesn't want to do anything about this, and innocent people keep dying, Ukraine is committing war crimes in the Donbass area, and people are not saying anything about it, we will stop it. All of a sudden, the entire world woke up. Oh, Russia then went to war. You see, there are two narratives. When there's a dispute like this, you don't touch the money because of international law. And that is what people are saying. If it was Russia who was taking somebody's money like this, they would have made a big deal out of it. Oh, Russia is breaking the law and this and that. They would have just, who knows? Because it's them trying to steal somebody's money. All of a sudden, they are ready to break the laws. Why? Because they never had those laws for them. Everybody must respect their law while they break it whenever they feel comfortable. See, the truth keeps coming out about the West, right? Their arrogance is out. Every single thing they built was built on sand, never solid, because they knew that a time will come that if they are losing, that they themselves will, as gods of the world, will try to rewrite laws. Even when you tell them that after stealing this money from Russia, people will no longer trust the EU, they don't care because they feel like, oh, look, we're gods. People will always love us, right? People will always want to be part of us, so we can fix that down the line. The sad thing for them is that Russia is proving to them that no, people are not always going to be with you. This is wrong. And so Russia comes in this argument the winner again, because you had people who still reason very well, like the Prime Minister of Belgium, who said, look, this is all emotional. It is not rational. And all of that because all those countries, including especially Germany, they don't want to pay for Ukraine. Look, these are people who say they care for Ukraine. They don't want to pay. They want somebody else to pay. They don't know where to get the money from. They know they cannot sell it to the public. They know people are going to tell them, look, Trump is trying to stop the war. You guys are trying to arm. No, man, please, we're sick and tired of it. So they have no argument. They know they cannot pay for it. And so what we are learning from this, that I want you to remember today, is that The laws that the West have put together that they call international law is not meant for them. They never put it for them. It is for you and I. Everybody has to respect it except them because they view themselves as God.